It was a late autumn night when the icy air and leaden sky already foretold the coming winter. I decided to challenge the legend of the cursed house, a forgotten structure on the outskirts of our small mountain town, shrouded in fog and surrounded by an oppressive silence. Merely looking at it instilled a deep ancestral terror, yet despite the village elders' warnings, the curiosity burning inside me was too strong to ignore. So, along with my girlfriend and 4 friends, I ventured into what would be the most terrifying night of our lives. I was the group's leader. Not by choice, but out of a sense of responsibility I always felt for my companions. Then there was Sarah, my girlfriend, a girl of unearthly beauty whose blue eyes and blonde hair hid an almost supernatural intuition. Mark was the living embodiment of courage, always ready to face danger without hesitation. Luke, with his cynicism and disbelief in any form of superstition, provided the perfect balance to our group. Elena, with her passion for the paranormal and an erudition bordering on obsession, was always in search of concrete evidence of the afterlife. Finally, poor Thomas, the shyest and most reserved among us, followed the group more out of a sense of belonging than true will. Crossing the threshold of that house, we were immediately enveloped in a piercing cold, as if entering another world, a realm governed by unwritten laws and incomprehensible forces. The walls seemed to breathe, pulsating with the rhythm of our frightened hearts, while the floors creaked under our steps, revealing their centuries-old age. Every room was a tangle of shadows and dust, with furniture covered in tarps that seemed to guard forgotten secrets. As we explored, unsettling phenomena began to manifest. Terrifying whispers echoed from the walls, as if the house itself was speaking, communicating with us through an ancient and dark language. Objects began to move without explanation, books falling from shelves as if pushed by invisible hands, paintings turning over in disdain for the eyes that dared to look at them. During the exploration, Sarah stumbled upon an old phonograph, covered in dust and cobwebs, which seemed not to have played for decades. With an almost reverential gesture, she cleaned it and turned it on. A crackling voice from another time revealed that the house had been built on an ancient cemetery, and now the tormented spirits of the dead sought vengeance against those who dared disturb their eternal rest. Our only salvation lay in finding a cursed pendulum clock hidden among the shadows of the dwelling, whose removal would appease their wrath. Just then, I felt a chilling breath on my neck. I spun around quickly, but darkness reigned supreme. There was no one behind me. A sinister laugh, laden with a dark threat, echoed through the rooms, hissing through the cracks in the walls, warning us that we would never leave that house. Alive. The tension was palpable, and our once cohesive group began to show the first signs of fracture. Fear, an invisible and omnipresent enemy, crept among us, eroding our determination and courage. But this was just the beginning of what awaited us, a prelude to even more chilling events that would test not only our friendship, but our very will to live. Escape became an obsession as the house revealed its true nature. Doors, once invitingly open, were now sealed by a supernatural force, as if the structure itself wanted to imprison us within its ancestral walls. The fear that had sneaked into us morphed into visceral terror when we witnessed a chilling event that marked the beginning of our descent into horror. Mark, the boldest among us, was the first to suffer the house's vengeance. As we desperately searched for a way out, he was lifted into the air by invisible hands as if caught in a vortex of paranormal force. A sinister crackling, a chorus of broken bones, was the prelude to his dark fate. His lifeless body disappeared into the darkness, leaving us alone with the harrowing echo of his screams that got lost in the endless corridors of the cursed dwelling. Chaos reigned supreme as the house came alive with ancient hatred, a fury directed at us, the intruders who dared disturb its eternal rest. Luke, always skeptical and disbelieving, was targeted by a ruthless entity that seemed to revel in toying with his convictions. His disappearance was marked by an inhuman scream that echoed through the empty rooms, a lament of pain that turned into a deafening silence, testifying to the impossibility of escaping the curse that weighed upon us. In a desperate attempt to save Luke, Elena met an even more tragic fate. Assaulted by ravenous shadows, creatures that emerged from the walls like a horde of demons, she was attacked with barbaric fury. Her screams of terror turned into whimpers of pure agony as the creatures tore out her eyes, leaving her to wander blind and desperate through the rooms of the house. Her final scream was muffled by a fatal fall down the stairs, ending her torment with a crisp, definitive sound, a blow that resonated like the hammer of an irrevocable judgment. Thomas, paralyzed by horror and unable to move, met his end in a lit fireplace, an ancient maw of fire that seemed to crave his soul. The dancing flames reflected an unfathomable desire, almost as if they were alive, thirsting for the fear and pain they could inflict. His cries, a desperate hymn begging for mercy, were the last farewell before the flames swallowed him, leaving only the memory of his pain. A warning to anyone who dared challenge the unwritten laws of that house. I found myself alone, the last survivor, in a desperate quest for salvation. My escape led me to a secret room beneath the cellar where I discovered that accursed pendulum clock, the pulsating heart of that house of horrors. With trembling hands, I laid it to rest in what seemed to be the tomb of an ancient tribal chief, praying for its wrath to be appeased. An oppressive silence fell as the house began to crumble, succumbing to its fate. The house seemed to fight against its own destiny as it fell apart piece by piece, creaking and moaning like a wounded beast. The walls that had for centuries harbored dark secrets and terrible curses now crumbled away, releasing a fog of dust that seemed to carry with it the tormented souls that had resided there. The dawn's light began to seep through the cracks, illuminating the desolation that surrounded me, a symbol of hope amidst so much destruction. My escape from the ruins was a marvel of survival, a desperate act of resistance against the dark forces that had sought to annihilate me. Emerging unscathed was a miracle I struggled to believe. The first rays of the sun caressed my face, marking the end of that accursed night. The ancient dwelling, now a pile of rubble, had been swallowed by the voracious belly of the earth, as if it had never existed. However, the legend of the cursed house did not die with its destruction. It became a tale, a warning to the townspeople, an eternal caution to those fools who, like me, dared to challenge the spirit world. That tragic night, I learned a lesson. Some secrets should remain buried, and some doors, once opened, should never be opened again. I carry with me the scars of that night, both the visible ones on my skin and the invisible ones etched into my soul, the memories of indescribable terror. Unbearable loss and immeasurable pain accompany me every day, reminding me of the price paid for my arrogant curiosity. The cursed house may have disappeared, but its dark legacy continues to live within me, a constant warning that some mysteries are too dangerous to explore. And you, who have had the courage to follow me this far through the dark corridors of this cursed story, I ask, are you ready to dare more? Subscribe to my channel and dive into the depths of horror. But be warned, every story is a portal to the unknown. A door that once opened might not bring you back. Do you really want to discover what lies beyond?